Hello and welcome to the Business Podcast at Imperial College London. I am your host, Amin Siala, and today my guest is Serge Didenko, founder of Blocks. Blocks is a smartwatch, a modular smartwatch, which rose to fame with a Kickstarter that received more than $1.6 million worth of funding. Serge is he's got a PhD in medical computing from Imperial, as well as an MEng in Biomedical Engineering. Serge joins me today. Thanks a lot for coming.
Hi, Amin. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Serge, you're a big advocate for modularity and modular. What is modular, and why should people care about modular?
Great question. When we started Blocks, we each had a different idea of what an ideal smartwatch or what an ideal mobile phone would be. We thought of all these amazing applications that you can build smartwatches for. Anything ranging from medical to gaming to sports to maybe even industrial applications. And we just couldn't agree on what were the right features for an ideal smartwatch. So we decided to make it modular, and we made it out of blocks. So modularity really allows you to express yourself in whatever your life's hobbies and your life's needs are.
Right. And then, so you created a smartwatch. The smartwatch that's got modular components, so enables people to put different modules in there. So give me an example. What kind of modules can people put on the watch?
Yeah, sure. So, you have the base of the smartwatch, which has similar features like as an Apple Watch or a Samsung Watch. But then you can add extra components into your wristband, each of which can be a different sensor. So, for example, if you're really into kind of running, you can add an advanced heart rate sensor. You can add a GPS. If you like to go hiking outdoors, you can add an extra battery to your watch so it keeps on running for like 2 or 3 or maybe even more days if you're out in the mountains. You can add an adventure module, which measures your pressure and temperature and helps you to predict how the weather is going to change. Or if you're like a BMX rider and you just want to have a module that kind of helps you to kind of tag all your tricks, you can also do that.
So it's created essentially for a wide audience. Some may use it for hiking, others may use it for other. It's also possible to pay contactless with the watch, right?
Oh yeah. That should be done.
That's just one of the many modules. You've got GPS, you got the hiking module, extra batteries, and it's built on Android.
It's built on Android, yeah.
And the reason?
It was just Android is open source, so it allows us to just basically edit the operating system and run it the way we want it.
Okay, so now I'd like to potentially get an explanation from you as to why this resonated with a large community around the world. What is it you think that attracted people into the modular watch? Because I've not come across any other modular watches. Now, truth be told, I'm not the biggest fan of smartwatches. So maybe it's an opportunity for you to tell us why. Because, just a basic search online, you have got a huge community of people.
Yeah, we have about 100,000 people who follow us. And it's really cool just to have so many people passionate about...
Yeah, all around the world.
Yeah, about blocks, yeah. We weren't the first to really embrace modularity. And modularity is such a difficult word. It's all about being able to customize your devices or your life in the way that you want. So, it started, I think, back in 2007 when the first iPhone came out. Like, if you look at the iPhone, what's the difference between that and all the previous phones? I think the biggest game changer for Apple was the fact that anyone could build an app that would be unique and would be suitable for a very particular audience. And that what really made an iPhone just a treasure for people in being able to express what they do in a daily life. There could be some people who love DJing and they have an app for that. People who love podcasts, people who love arts. And around about 2013, there was this concept that went viral on the internet. It was called phone blocks.
Okay.
So there was a couple of guys in Netherlands who basically said that why do we have to have all of our phones being the same, and why do we have to buy a new phone every year? So they basically made a little video and said, hey, let's make a phone which is going to be made out of these different components, and you can swap them in and out. So when new technology comes out every year, you don't have to buy a whole new phone. And you're also helping by recycling less electric components and toxic waste. And that thing went completely viral. So it received, I think, 20 million views on YouTube, just a little video.
I actually remember it, yeah. It definitely went viral.
Yeah.
Because they were the first to actually come up with this concept. And it kind of makes sense to anybody, right? It's, instead of buying an off-the-shelf phone, which once you're finished with it, you throw it away, you can say, well, okay, this is 4 gigs of RAM. Now I'm going to buy 12 gigabytes of RAM and recycle the old gigabytes
or
of
you
RAM.
get a new camera. I mean, if you look
Makes sense.
at how your iPhones or how your smartphones change every year, it's just like a little bit better camera, a little bit better screen.
Yeah.
The other components stay the same. So that went really big, and at some point these guys made a collaboration with Google, and Google launched a project called Project Aura. So they bought part of Motorola at the time, who had a secret modular smartphone project in their works.
This is in 2013.
Yeah, 2014, 2013. It was 2013, I think.
Secret.
And and then basically they saw all this hype from a bunch of guys in Amsterdam just going crazy.
Yeah.
And so they made this a public project, called it Project Aura. So when we started, we didn't immediately think of Project Aura, but we naturally came to the same conclusion that we didn't want a smartwatch. It's just going to be generic.
Static.
Static.
Yeah.
We wanted something that can be customized to our own experiences. And
you mentioned the iPhone being an opportunity for people to customize their experience. I think one of the things you told me before the podcast, you said everyone's iPhone's different, right? I've got a different set of apps to you, and probably ordered in the same in different ways as well. That is a concept of sort of customization. People like to customize their own thing. So are you following the same logic in terms of the watch?
Yeah, I think in today's world we're all moving towards customization. If you think about your apps and your Facebook feed, your Snapchat feed, your everything digital in this world is all about building personalized experiences. And when we started Blocks, we thought, okay, well, can we do the same but in a physical world? Can we allow people to customize their devices? Because there's so much more you can do with a phone or with a watch. There's so many cool things, and and not everybody's the same. So and then that's something that we made. We had an idea for. We started pitching to some people in London. We said that we want to build this thing. Everyone was like, "What is a smartwatch?" I mean, at the time, we were like going around talking about blocks, but people didn't even know what a smartwatch is. So we were kind of a bit more too advanced for that.
Yeah, it was new. When did smartwatches start? Rising in popularity with the Apple Watch, right? I think Apple were the ones that...
No, it was Pebble. Pebble had a groundbreaking Kickstarter campaign that raised $10 million. It was 2012, I think.
Okay.
I can't remember the date.
You guys came when?
We came around in like 2014. That's when we went public. And so we knew it was going to be a big thing. Wearables are really going to come and change the way we look at healthcare as well. I think in the long term, that's where the market's going. But it's going to allow us to bring our notifications and our devices closer to ourselves and just be even less distracted. But anyway, long story short, like this was something we kind of started thinking as a startup, and the biggest challenge for us was how do we make it a reality? Like we knew straight away we need a couple $1 million to make it happen.
Okay. Why?
So, because building hardware is just really expensive. When you need to go to China. Every time you do manufacturing preparations, that's going to be at least $500,000 just to set something up. Right. For a
So when you approached investors, what did you have? Did you have an MVP, or was it just drawings? Was it just blueprints? And
we went to some labs in Imperial, and we 3D printed this very large parts of what blocks might look like.
Okay.
And we took loads of electronics and just started fusing them together and starting putting sensors in them and learning how to hack.
So it was an MVP. You created an MVP.
Yeah, it was just this gigantic thing that sat on your hand, and we were going around. I think
10 times the size.
Yeah, at the time, I was actually the year before that I was the president of Imperial Entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Here, at Imperial.
How was that experience?
It was great. It just gave me all these amazing people that I met through this society, and some of them actually joined Blocks at some point.
Really?
Or they've advised us, or they gave some introductions to others.
Yep.
And because of that, also I kind of tend to meet a lot of investors. So with all those contacts, we started pitching to quite serious investors.
Yeah.
And with that gigantic watch,
10 times the size of the one you have today.
And they laughed at it, but they liked it. They thought, okay, these guys are crazy, but they're thinking big.
Yeah.
And still didn't want to fund it because hardware, as I say, is hard. It's expensive. So a natural way for us was to just try and go and do a Kickstarter campaign, which was, it's a thing. If you wanna prove to the world that you got an idea that might work and it's a physical thing, you go to Kickstarter and you raise money.
Right. And how much preparation did you do before reaching the Kickstarter point? I mean, if someone's listening to this and they're thinking of Kickstarter, at what point should they go and start doing crowdfunding?
When they're ready. I'd say the later the better.
Okay, the later the better there.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think that, all I need to do is create a prototype, a nice video, and off I go to Kickstarter. And suddenly I'm going to get, what's the story behind it? What tips would you give? You've had a successful Kickstarter. I think I read, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it you've had the 16th most funded or overfunded Kickstarter campaign in Europe? That was a publication. And by the way, for listeners, you've been featured in on BBC, Telegraph, Forbes, in quite reputable TechCrunch as well. Now that happened post the success of the Kickstarter. So how much of an impact did this create to Blocks today?
It helped us to get to where we are, and it really helped us to find the right partners. But with Kickstarter, we had a kind of funny story, because when we started building Blocks, we had to get the initial funding. So you can't just go to Kickstarter with nothing. I mean, you can, but to produce a good video, you need to spend anywhere between $10,000 to $40,000 at least. I think Kickstarter is all about video, and it's all about
visual.
But having a good marketing team as well, and you have to pay for that. So we had this idea of like, okay, we need to show people that Blocks is an idea that people like. And so we went to some of our advisors, and they basically said, well, try and sell it. I said, what do you mean? Like, we don't even know when we can produce this thing. Look, you have a concept. There's like 30,000 people on your mailing list who are really excited about it. I bet there's going to be at least 10 people who want to buy it, and they'll give you some money for it.
Okay, fair enough. Makes sense.
Yeah, and I think this is like an ideal example of what entrepreneurship should really be about. Like, you fake it till you make it. But you do it with people who are really passionate, who really want to follow you. So we basically send out a newsletter to some of these people that we had on our mailing list. So we're excited about the concept. And we said to them, hey, come meet the founders of Blocks.
Okay.
And,
where did you host the first event? Imperial?
No, it was online. So there's all
like a webinar kind of thing.
Yeah, it was people from like Michigan, South Africa, like Hong Kong, whatever. And we arranged these exclusive calls with the founders of Blocks. For you can ask any questions you want.
Any question.
And we chatted with these people, and they were really nice. And they arranged anything from like retired surgeons to like single moms who were in marketing to like tech enthusiasts. So it wasn't just those kind of geeky.
It was everyone. It was a broad spectrum of people interested in what you guys were doing.
Yeah, and
Sorry, how do they find you?
Before that, we kind of also had an idea, how do we tell the world? We've got this Blocks.
Okay.
So we built a little video on YouTube, and it was like a concept prototype video. We put it on YouTube. We sent a few tweets to a few journalists, and suddenly they saw this connection with Project Aura, with Modular Phone, and then TechCrunch published about us. And as soon as TechCrunch publishes about you, and the world goes crazy.
Spreads like fire.
Yeah, and suddenly you're invited to, we went to like Buckingham Palace. No, St. James's Palace, because we had all these views on our YouTube and everyone was talking about us. We had some press releases about us.
And I also saw a picture of you and Wozniak.
Oh yeah, that was another event. We were invited to just see a talk by him, but we kind of sneaked in there and just like took a picture just so that we can say, hey, we were hanging out with Wozniak.
Yeah. No, he loves watches, by the way. I remember he's created his own watch, by the way.
Oh yeah. I saw that one. He was showing us. He gave us an address and sent me a Blocks watch. I think we still have to send him one.
Oh really? You've not sent him one yet?
Not yet.
Well, if Wozniak, if you're listening to this episode, hopefully you'll receive your Blocks watch very soon.
Yeah. So I was also saying a story about how we got our first money, how we got our first money. So we went to these people, we interviewed them, it was about 13 of them, and basically at the end of like a 45-minute conversation, where we were really just having a chat about what's exciting about Blocks to them. We basically said to them, hey, I mean, you're here, we're here.
I know where this is going.
Would you put some money towards Blocks, and you'll be the first one to receive it in the world? How much? Like $100? Yeah. Okay. I think I didn't think it was going to happen. We had 15 conversations. Out of 15 conversations, 13 said yes to putting a $100 deposit. So we were all right. Here's the bank account details. Cool. A day later or whatever, we see some money in the bank. Okay, cool, that's good. So we did that. Yeah, and then suddenly we were like telling people, hey, we just got people to give us money for
an idea,
talking
almost.
to them.
Yeah.
And then we got some little money for it, like £5,000 here, £5,000 there, just because they thought it was interesting. We had so many press about us. And then we got into this really big competition where we had to pitch to CEO of Intel, chairman of Louis Vuitton. We had to pitch to an executive director of Nike. We had to pitch to Venus Williams, the tennis superstar, and loads of other CEOs.
Did you pitch to Venus? Really?
Yeah,
Williams.
she's got a picture with Block's watch. I mean, with
Incredible.
the prototype.
So you got Wozniak. There's a lot of people that know about blocks. This is.
Yeah. Hopefully, yeah. We should send them all a watch, right?
Oh,
Still haven't done it.
Oh wow! No, you shouldn't be saying this publicly because now you have to. Now you're obliged to send them the watch.
Okay, cool. We'll do that. Sure. So I mean, we were in this competition, and there was a big prize for grabs. So we said, okay, well, if we did it with 10 people, can we like get 1,000 people to pay us money for some magical product in the future?
Yeah.
And we did the same thing. I mean, instead of arranging calls, we just did like an extensive survey and stuff like this. And we said to people, hey, you want to be the first who receives blocks? There's 1,000 places. Put $50 into our bank. Okay. And 1,000 people gave us $50. So it's $50,000.
You actually got that?
Yeah, out of
Wow.
Like just talking to people about an idea. And here is when really the stuff started to happen. Like, when you go to the investor and say, hey, I just got $50,000 because I talked to some people and they want to buy it. Okay. They take you more seriously.
Right.
So I think that's really where things changed for us. And this is when we started raising real money for Kickstarter.
Okay, just on this point, I think for anyone interested, because I think this is an excellent case study here. A lot of people approach investors when they have nothing, no traction. They spend hours and hours, if not days, working on their product and their website and their video, but they don't have any traction. They don't have a single customer, and they think they can raise $1 million or something. You actually got customers, and even if it was 10, 20, 1,000, you've proven that people are willing to pay for the product that you have. And you think that's an essential part of a startup. There's just so much hot air in the industry right now, in the world of entrepreneurship. People think they can raise money for nothing. Like, you need to show traction, and you've got that. I think investors, I guess when they saw you, they said, this is clearly a bunch of smart guys, got PhDs from Imperial. They got an interesting concept. Oh, they've actually they're talking to people, and they're paying them. Mm-hmm. That's what they need to know, and from that, you managed to get the traction and go to the Kickstarter.
Yeah, I think investors it's an interesting animal, right? Venture capital or even just angel investors. They tend to invest into two things, right? One is traction and the other one is talent. Okay. So if you got some a good university behind you, which everyone in Imperial I think does, there is a likelihood they're going to take you seriously, especially if you have a very interesting technological application that you're building. But if you can show them some traction, that definitely helps. So I think with us that was this exact case. Still, I mean, we were building hardware. I think Blocks is we're in a tough field where investors are very keen to invest in software. Everyone will tell you that. So if you do want to start, I think
less upfront costs, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just have to pay for a few guys.
Techs.
Just
servers, AWS, any cloud.
Easy, right?
Done.
Yeah. With hardware, it's like you have to go to China. You have to find production. You have to pay for
the mold,
the tools, everything. So every trip is anywhere between $3,000 to $10,000, and prototyping is expensive. Yeah. But it's worth it because at the end, if you build something like this, it's very difficult to just go and copy it. Okay. So it's a different animal. But yeah. So
you were talking about the Kickstarter then? Yeah. So you said you did some efforts before the Kickstarter launched. You raised some money before then. Then you launched Kickstarter, and you initially wanted to ask for a total of $250,000. Then 1.6 million came. What was your response from that? I mean, did you expect this kind of return, and did you expect this response?
Yes, kind of. I mean, we knew that with less than 500K, we wouldn't really be able to do much. Right. So we said, okay, look, let's put the goal quite low because that makes people want to chip in. If we don't reach that, our own secret goal, then we probably just return the money and come. I mean, we had a gauge of what we're gonna raise, and we think we kind of got there. So it's a science. Right? Yeah, it's a science. Like Kickstarter is a science. It's definitely. Yeah, well, that's absolutely great. So you did the Kickstarter, and then that's it. You've raised the money, 1.6 million. What was the first thing you did as soon as the 35 days were over? Oh, I don't remember. I think we just took a day off. I mean, we were working really hard. I think
off.
for Kickstarter,
I didn't mean it literally. I didn't mean what you did the day after Kickstarter. That was figurative speech, Serge.
So me and my co-founder went away, and we spent 2 weeks together, just away from London, just thinking how we're gonna make production happen.
Right.
We knew we had to hire lots of engineers, and we were moving some of our team to Taiwan, a very interesting place. So
Why? What's interesting about Taiwan?
It's just a very nice place to be. It's very friendly. And there's obviously, if you're into manufacturing, I think it's the best place to be. I mean, China is the best place, but it's difficult for people who grew up in London or in Western Europe to just go there and live there straight away. So Taiwan has a lot of talent, a lot of people, a lot of companies who've since the 90s moved their headquarters to China. Because Shanghai is rising up and so on, so it has a lot of these people who kind of stayed behind because it's their home, and so it's a great place to hire. It's a great place to get hardware engineers on board. So we went there. We loved that. So
And you hired talent from there?
Yeah. That was hiring is, as you know, the hardest part of startups. So I spent 6 months in Taiwan just pretty much doing hiring.
Now, here's a question, because some investors advise, and ex-entrepreneurs, they advise that the first thing you do on Series money is actually hire somebody to hire. Now, you hired yourself.
Yeah.
In hindsight, would you have possibly got somebody to do it?
Everyone I know, and I know quite a few, is kind of pretty successful startups, they all do it themselves.
Okay.
I mean, because for the first 10 people, you got to get it right. And if you don't have the right vibe with the person, then, I think I spent probably 50% of my time trying to get the motivation right with the team.
How did you build that? How did you build that?
How did I build it?
Yeah, I mean, surely there's a culture in Blocks, right? The early days.
Yes, I mean, our culture is very much kind of hacker-oriented, where we basically said, if you want to show some prototype, build the basics and just, make it work. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Okay.
We also have this thing around no compromise. So Blocks as a concept is about not compromising. Modularity enables you not to compromise on the features of what an ideal smartwatch may be for you, of what an ideal companion to your sports routine, to your gaming routine is.
Okay.
You build something that's unique to your personality. You don't compromise for something that's kind of pretty generic. So we've incorporated that into our own culture in Blocks, where we basically said no one has to compromise, and if someone thinks something's not going right in the company, they have a right to just speak out and challenge anyone. So sometimes we spend some hours arguing whether some decision is right or wrong, but at the end of the day, the whole team is kind of unified in one direction, which is very important for a startup.
Yeah, so essentially everyone's got a voice, is what you're saying. You're saying if you're part of Blocks and you've got an idea, you've got a concept, you're biased towards a certain idea, then make sure to voice that clearly, because we will discuss it.
Yeah, I think it's important that everyone feels that they can, make a difference in a startup. Like the minute they feel that maybe underappreciated, people tend to, slack off a little bit. So
yeah, that's actually quite interesting. Something quite similar. I went to the Amazon headquarters in London 2 weeks ago, and one of the leadership principles is called bias for action. And what they're saying is that instead of debating about something for, say, a week, bias for action, you get on with it and do it. And with them, it's about this iterative, okay, let's get things done, instead of just talking about it over and over and over again. But at the same time, you're saying that people working at Block, they should be able to voice their concerns. They should be able to suggest and recommend ideas. So, and do you think you've preserved this culture till today? How many people are in
We're
Blocks?
15. I think with us, we are in a very unique position as a startup that we're looking at the entire tech stack. I mean, we're basically doing everything. We're building our own hardware. We're making our own design of the watch, which is an entire craft by itself, like industrial design. We build our own operating system, more technically, building our own Android. Yeah. We build our own firmware. We build our own apps. We build our own web store. We build our own.
So everything is custom.
Every single thing. So we naturally have a lot of people who come from very different industries. And I don't know if you know about startups. There's always this debate between the designers and developers. And in Blocks, it's a drama. It's always been a drama.
Really?
I think now is less so, but we've always had like so much tension between these people, and you've got to make sure that the team is aligned. So we had a lot of trouble trying to purpose in developers, like engineers, with designers, and then there's also marketing people, because designers want to get things perfectly, engineers want to get things perfectly on another, and then marketeers just want to, like, you know, make the clicks happen.
Yeah.
And then they all hate each other, basically, all these three people.
Look, historically, across all industries, I mean, even thousands of years ago, engineers and artists, engineers and creatives have always clashed. Because the engineer says, you know, I need to fit these components into this watch, and I'm constrained by this size. Then the designer would say, I want it to look diamond-shaped or star-shaped. And then the engineer says, no, we can't do that. And then the designer says, no, actually, but it would look great. That clash, I think, is only natural. But so how did you manage to make
just
peace
saying,
between them?
No compromise. Just don't compromise. Just argue until you basically one of you gives up. Or,
okay.
Yeah. And that was, and then some of our engineers and designers actually decided to live together in London, and I think they got along better that way.
So you heard it here first. If your designers and developers are arguing too much, you'll get them to live with each other for about 6 months. How long do you think it should?
They might want to destroy each other, but they kind of at least see
there's good benefits for the company. Okay, so hardware.
Yeah.
Now, you've obviously expressed how difficult it is to get into. Do you recommend it? Do you recommend? What are your best tips for somebody that wants to create a hardware startup?
Get in touch with someone who built a hardware company and just spend some time with them, get some coffees with them, and learn as much as possible. I think for us, it was always the case. The big learning point for me was when we went after Kickstarter. Actually, we got an advisor who was heading up manufacturing for Vertu, who eventually kind of worked with us a little bit. And we just basically booked him in, flew him to California, this is the first money we spent. And just three of the founding partners just spent 4 days with him in California, just like going breakfast, lunch and dinner and just sightseeing together, driving around, just trying to learn as much as possible, because manufacturing is an art in itself. And
so you just wanted to learn? You said, okay, before we do anything, we want to learn.
Yeah, so just 4 days him talking and I was just sitting there listening. So I think that's the only way you really, because it's just, you don't learn this kind of stuff at university, I don't think, unless you do manufacturing degree, but I don't.
Whatever degree you do, it's never going to be exactly like how it is in real life, right?
Yeah, so I think for startups, if you want to succeed, get yourself a mentor. I always try to push our team for each person in the team. It doesn't matter if they're senior or junior, or if it's just a software engineer. I always try to say, try and get a mentor. Try to have someone that you respect. Sometimes you reach out and give them some news about what's happening at Blocks.
Where would you find a mentor, and how would you choose the right one?
Oh, that's hard. You meet some people at networking events, and and just try and just get them out for a coffee. And if you actually say to a person, hey, I just like you because you've done all this cool stuff and I want to learn. Very senior people usually are very helpful, and especially if they're from startups. Like if anyone would approach me and say, Serge, give me some tips on Kickstarter, give me some tips on hardware, I would happily spend quite a substantial amount of time with them.
Yeah. With regards to your brand, community, now there's people from all over the world that love Blocks, and I saw on YouTube, there's a lot of videos of people that are reviewing Blocks, they're breaking it apart, putting it together, different languages as well. How do you make sure that you're communicating with them? I mean, how regularly do you blog? Do you post regular posts? Are you engaging with this community, and why is that important?
It's very important. As you know, Stripe, one very famous company that's
payments.
What are they, like 10 billion valuation now? I mean,
million.
One billion or 10 billion. I don't know, but
let's find out.
They're famous. One of the most famous.
9 billion, so close to 10 billion. You got it right first time around. Okay.
So one of the most famous things they've said is that customer is the most important thing that you have, even though they're building a payments backend. They had this thing as we have to reply to customer queries within an hour. Because if you do that, you build this fan community, and then they talk about you.
Customer complaint?
Not anything. Like if anyone sends you an email, sends you a message, so you have to be on it in an hour. So they basically they had a system in place just to make sure that they would be able to reply. Yeah, and it just makes such a big difference. So when we did Blocks, I basically said during Kickstarter, everyone has to get involved in Kickstarter, because there were so many people commenting, and then we've been praised a lot by the Kickstarter team, and I think a lot of other people that we are one of the most active campaigns on Kickstarter, and even though we've had our difficulties throughout the Kickstarter since the campaign, and been some delays in manufacturing, the fact that we've always been on it and trying to talk to backers and to to just kind of reply to their comments is important. I think the second thing which we're trying to now move into is being more down to earth, which is, I think, very important today. So we did last week we did a thing called live Q&A on Kickstarter, where you just get in front of a camera and then just talk to people.
Oh, great!
And I think that helps. That helps a lot. Just being there.
What kind of questions were you being asked?
I don't know, all sorts of stuff.
Tech questions, business questions.
Yeah, everything. So actually, I'm planning to just get on camera once a week and just record something. And it could be as basic as just getting my phone out, recording a video, and saying hi to people. I think being able to connect with your customers and showing that you, especially if you're a small startup that's fighting all these big corporate giants, being able to have a face for the fact that you're just a human trying to make things cooler or better, or it makes a big difference. Because big corporate, 100%. You will never be able to compete with big corporate brands on how slick your image is. Yeah. But you can compete with them by being more raw and being more.
It makes absolute sense. Yeah. So you're saying then, okay, big corporates, we don't know who they are. You just see a big logo. They've got branches all over the place. You don't never really know who are you talking to. When you pay the money and they give you whatever service they are. There isn't a sense of personability in there, but with startups, that is something whether they can excel with. Yeah. Look, blogging is the best way forward, and a lot of startups miss out on this opportunity. And the ones that do very well are the ones that blogs on a weekly basis. I think it's a really good idea if you can blog on a weekly basis.
Vlog,
even better.
I mean, it's hard to make good videos, but why do you need to make good videos? We live in the age of, Snapchat and all the other stuff. You can just get on camera and just do it.
100%. I mean, you've seen all these pop-up celebrities that come up on Instagram and Snapchat. They don't think too much about production. This is a problem. They really have the lean startup methodology. They've never studied it. They've never read it, but they do it. They just pick up a camera and say something silly or something funny, and it just catches fire, and people start spreading it and sharing it and consuming it and laughing about it and sharing with their friends, right? But they do it so regularly that they build a fan base. And I think that you can learn from that and sort of just implement it in the startup world. Because in theory, if you're vlogging on a weekly basis, everyone that loves blocks, they're on the journey with you. They feel like they're with you, Serge. They're saying, we're with blocks. We're part of this team. We're part of this community, and we're seeing this company grow. I was the first person that got my hand on the first 1,000 blocks watches. And that's what people like. They want to be part. They want to embrace a brand. Yeah, and I think this is the case. So you've got it right. Hey, and how many colors does it come in?
Colors, currently 2. We'll have more. Yeah, so black and silver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We were gonna do more, but that's another thing with manufacturing. For every color, you have to create a new SKU. I don't even know what it stands for. I don't remember.
Yeah, Christina Peterson. I had her on from Loose Technologies. We talked about the colors aspect, and one of the advice she got from other people that did hardware is stick with one color to begin with.
One color always. It's like the places where hardware goes wrong. As I was talking to you this morning, is like we're doing a manufacturing right now in China, and your screws go wrong. Like there is a machine that puts the screws into your modules, and it somehow skews. And this is where the little mistakes happen at this level. So yeah, with hardware, you really have to be kind of OCD with every single detail, and less is more. That's
in what context?
In terms of colors, in terms of features.
Okay.
If you in general, my advice to anyone building a startup, I think with blocks, we went and built one of the most complex products you could probably do. Not only we built a smartwatch, we built this whole system of smart modules. Each one has a smart sensor in itself, which can work by itself with a battery. But I think we kind of went over the top. What we've learned, if we would have done it in a simpler manner, we would have been, faster, I guess.
So leaner. You could have gone leaner.
Yeah. So I mean, that's like if you're building a startup, try to reduce your features. Just focus on the core. Focus on the one basic thing, and just get it right. Talk to your customers. Focus on one thing.
So tell me about smartwatches in general. Now, do you think people in 10 years' time, a lot more people will be wearing smartwatches?
Yeah. For sure. I think it's a market that there's a lot of reports online saying the smartwatch market is not growing as fast as it could. I think it was overhyped to insanity, I think, throughout 2015. It was supposed to be...
Who do you think is to blame for that? Surely it was Apple and Samsung paying all those PR companies to just talk about smartwatches, generate the interest and get the orders.
Yeah, right? If you look at the market itself, this is what we started this conversation from modularity. We're saying that people don't want to buy a whole new phone every year these days.
Yeah.
Because they don't really improve that much. So what the market saw, or the consumer electronics market, is there is general slowdown in the industry of people buying new things. And Apple and Samsung, they're having trouble on retaining customer buy-ins every year in and out. So what happened in 2014 and 15, they basically discovered this whole new product set that they somehow can lock in their customers and ensure that they stay within their ecosystem. So smartwatch is the way to do that. You know, when Apple did the Apple Watch, you know, if you have an Apple Watch, you're probably going to buy an iPhone next time around because it only works with the iPhone.
Right.
If you have a Samsung watch, you're much more likely to stick with Samsung. So a smartwatch is, for them, was a way to ensure that they're locking customers into the ecosystem. One, generate new revenue source, you know, and solve that problem that they're just having trouble selling a new phone every year. Because of this, there was a lot of trouble coming in Asia. I think a lot of people expected a financial crisis to happen around 2016 because there was a general economic slowdown in Asia because there was just a lack of sales in consumer electronics. It didn't happen. I think the market self-corrected. Like, we can go into macroeconomics, but
yeah. Well, I mean, just to give an example, the iPhone. That's one of the reasons why they don't have a memory card slot.
Yeah.
Right, because they want to just preserve that uniqueness, and also their charge port is unique to Apple, and that's because unlike Android and what Google's doing, where you can just plug in a USB 3, which is common, they don't. That's one of the strategies for them to preserve that. Surely Apple are the best at doing this.
Lock people in. Yeah, they want to lock people in. And is this the right way to do things? I mean, we moved from web being all free and stuff, and now there's a lot of articles online, as you'll probably read, that web is no longer a free medium, and there's a lot of people controlling what you do on the net. Same thing with your devices. So when we talk about blocks, or what we believe in is, like, we still go by the old book of, you know, it should all be open. It can work being open, and
this is a philosophy, open source.
Yeah,
I think when I first met you, one of the first pressing questions I had in my mind is whether you're making this a community-led effort. Because in theory, this is a platform, and if you open source the development, you said you want to create it so that developers can create their own modules.
Yeah.
It only makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Somebody in Taiwan, not working for Blocks, could come up with their own module and just plug it in. And is that how you have it at the moment? Are you focusing on enabling developers to actually get stuck in and create modules themselves?
We've been doing it slowly but surely, like in a beta or alpha mode. And I think when we launch in January, like we have kind of big public official
January.
launch.
What's happening in January?
Consumer Electronics Show, Las Vegas. So the biggest show on earth.
And you're going to be there.
Yeah. Well, if you're a consumer electronics if you're a hardware company,
you have
to be there. It's 150,000 people come down to Las Vegas. Every single hotel is booked out, and it's just, I mean, it's like a Glastonbury festival, but for electronic geeks. I guess. It's just insane. It's a beautiful, like, if you love gadgets, I mean, that's a place to be. Even if you don't have a startup, just go buy a ticket and enjoy
it. Gets a lot of coverage online and on TV. It's a very, very hot event.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to launch there, and like we don't really think of Blocks as even a modular watch. I think it's an easier way to explain it, but we think of it as a platform that enables people to develop new technologies for wearables of the future. Like, we want to be on the edge of what is possible in terms of sensors.
I absolutely agree with you. And this is, again, one of the other things I concluded from just speaking to you on this podcast and before, is that in reality, when we use the word or the term smart watch, you're just saying it as because it's something people can relate to. It's a watch. Where do you put a watch? Okay, on your wrist. But what you're saying is actually, it's technological innovation where you can plug in components, electrical components that will be electronic components that will benefit you. Whether you're a hiker, whether you're a runner, whether you want to pay, contactless. That's the way we think about it. I mean, it doesn't even have to be in the watch format. It's just we kind of stick with it right now. But we want it to be like an ecosystem of different things that you can just plug together and, build as something for your smart home maybe in the future. Maybe Blocks could be like a little thing that you stick to your fridge and tells you what food is inside. I don't know. Yeah.
But it makes everyone dream. Like, so sometimes people come up with crazy ideas. One of our founding partners, his thing is like he wants a module that tells him how good the wine and the cheese is that he eats and drinks. I mean, he's got this
Can
thing.
you get that?
I don't know if he can, but he wants to see it one day.
Stick it into the piece of cheese and get a report.
Like mass spectrometer. I know. There's lots of innovation out there. There's this startup called Sio, by a company called Consumer Physics. So they have a mini mass spectrometer. So you basically shine a piece of light on an apple or a piece of food, and it tells you the composition of the chemicals inside.
And it can tell you whether it's good to eat or not.
And whether it's good to eat or not, yeah. So
Does
we
it
were
work?
thinking of like collaborating with them and maybe building a module for that. So imagine you just like hover your watch over your food and it says, this is so many calories in it, or like this is good coffee or not. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, again, there's a lot to be done, but there's already kind of gadgets that allow you to play with it. And I see Blocks as the platform that allows you to play with the future. I'm not saying it's going to be the perfect sensors, the perfect watch, but it's going to be something where you can just try new things, like new blood glucose monitor, new, as I said, measure how good your wine is.
Yeah.
Play with your Wii controller, we were thinking of maybe releasing a Pokemon Go module, I think, last year, but we just weren't ready for it.
Well, you might be ready for the Harry Potter one.
Is it coming?
The same creators of the Pokemon Go are now going to create one for Harry Potter.
All right.
And they are excited.
Good, thanks for telling me. I'm going to get on it.
100%. You never know.
Right.
Actually, just, Blocks. The idea's coming to me the following. Now, what you mentioned about the mass spectrometer that can detect whether an apple is good or not. Yeah. Okay. In theory, a startup can be created just doing that, single purpose, where I say, are you worried about your health? Are you worried about the fruits that you're feeding your children or wanting to eat? Are you health conscious? Yes, you are. Well, here's a smartwatch that can detect whether your food is clean and good to eat or not. That, in theory, I can imagine somebody creating a marketing campaign from that and selling them for $40 each. But what's even better in this case is when Blocks becomes a platform that enables all these individual startups to build, the components they want to sell on Blocks technology.
Yeah, that's how we really think of it. It's a development platform, and we have a lot of startups reaching out to us. In the medical field especially, because I think again wearables are tending to go there. Like Apple has gone from being a fashion accessory to now really thinking how they can improve health, because that's the next frontier.
Well, Fitbit is the one that kind of shed the light on the fact that people actually use wearables for their health.
A big business, right? So that's where the big market is. And I think they're trying to get better. So they're trying to go from just gamifying your daily routine, how much you walk, to really being able to, say, serve the 10% of the US population who have, blood glucose problem or something like that.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big thing. And then if you create a product that can tell you how good your daily calorie intake is and really do that well, I mean, you have $1 billion business or more. So
now, Serge, you've got a TED Talk. I discovered this a couple of weeks ago, actually. No, last week. It was a great talk. You did it at Imperial in 2014. Yeah. And if you're listening to this or watching this, I recommend you listen to it. I think it's about 15 minutes. And he just talked about modular.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting about that is that you delivered that talk in 2014. And you mentioned that, we're planning to raise a Kickstarter. And then here we are now. You've raised 1.6. And, it seems to me that Blocks is going from strength to strength. What tip? I mean, how was that experience?
Let's just say that I don't feel like I need to watch any sitcoms or series I'm sorry guys, I haven't watched Game of Thrones, partly because of lack of time, although my team does and they hate me for not watching it. There's just I think the experience of building a startup is that you go through this journey, and it's quite an emotional one. You go through peaks and troughs, and really are peaks and troughs. There was a series of events where we thought, okay, we might go bankrupt at some point or something like this. There was a series of events where people were suing us. There was just so many
suing
things
you for
happening.
What?
There's like some patent stuff, related stuff, and I mean, basically, when you build a startup, it's just such an emotional roller coaster, and seeing through the progress is probably one of the greatest things. And I definitely recommend anyone who wants to go into startups, just do it and then see where it goes. I mean, to get to where I am with Blocks, it wasn't just a single journey. You yourself, right, did some projects.
Yeah.
I think I've been engaged in like 5-10 different things before, and I've tried building startups. I think the key to creating a startup is really finding the right people to do it, because I've previously worked on AI startup, I've worked on a fashion startup, I worked on a robotics startup, I worked on a marketing startup, like so many things, and they kind of went somewhere, but like there's the only one thing that really stopped us was people were not passionate enough to give up their Friday nights and Saturday nights because they felt like this was an obligation rather than a fun thing they were doing.
Right.
So if you want to do a startup, just keep doing it until you find a person that you just can spend a Friday night and then don't feel like, oh, I'm not going out tonight. Oh, I feel like I'm missing out. No, you're there and you're like, wow, this is better than going out. This is like so cool.
Yeah.
How can we get how can we get an investor into our room? So suddenly when you're doing a startup for me, for Blocks, 4 years now, 3 years, it never felt like it as a job. It just felt like you just on it all the time. It's such a cool experience. Yeah.
And how paramount was it to find a team that shared the same interest, the same zeal and passion for Blocks?
I mean, without the team, nothing would happen, I think. So I had my co-founder that I've started a business with. I think the great thing was that we both share this passion for wearables and for bioengineering and other things. And we all kind of were around Silicon Valley type startup-y people. But then that wasn't enough. We brought in the people who were pointing out the flaws in our thinking. And so it really is not just two people. I think it was like another 3 or 4 that really made Blocks happen. And just every single one of them had different qualities.
And those you hired individually? Yeah.
Well, they're mostly like friends who just, they became friends. Some of them became friends, some of them were friends. And they're going into it.
And I'm assuming you prioritized their value and what input they would give above just likability, or was likability a component?
Yeah, for sure. I think there is an element to this. Long story. There will be another podcast.
Really? Is it that much to go into? Yeah. Okay, so you did a PhD in medical computing, medical imaging. Now, one would ask, how did you go from that to Blocks in a way? Do you see a relevancy here? Or is this just a hobby and a passion that went way out of hand?
Kind of, right? I should have been focused on my PhD.
Yeah, oh no.
My professor knows better. I've always been passionate about doing like innovative technology and startups, and so I've always been looking out to build new businesses. It doesn't really have to be in my field, but the thing what I like about Blocks is when we started with my co-founder is I was really passionate about building like an advanced medical device. Okay. Because there's a couple of things that I really want to focus on in life, and for me it is very much healthcare, and I think being at Imperial really opens all these opportunities. So I think the future is really big for personalized healthcare devices. Us being able to have devices that can measure our health at home and being preventative in nature rather than like treatment oriented. So when we started Blocks, one of my goals was to build a device which is going to be the most advanced medical device in the world. My co-founder didn't agree, and he said, I want this and that and that. And out of this natural debate came out the idea of Blocks. So, but I really see for Blocks like the final journey, or one of the most difficult things we might do in the future is get into that medical market. There's many other things we can do, right? But there's many other things I'm kind of interested in. I think AI is one of them, and when it's applied to medical technology, to medical imaging. Okay. My PhD was focused on MRI scanning, on brain imaging, which I think is another frontier which is completely it's developed in some sense, but we don't know anything about the brain and how it forms. And
it's fascinating. Yeah,
so I think I really would want to somehow be involved in that in the future. Trying to understand how we can build better knowledge of brain conditions, or now our ability to plug into the brain, and just, things like what Elon Musk is doing, Neuralink. And what do you think of Neuralink? Do you think he's overselling it, or is it actually... Very brave. What's Neuralink for people that don't know it? Neuralink, it's a startup that's trying to connect computers to your brain directly and allow you to communicate between the brain and the computers. So it's kind of like science fiction, like Elon Musk always does science fiction. But, I think in 10, 15 years... Elon Musk always does science fiction. He does science fiction, but he brings it to reality. Robot, Right. But he does them. He does them, right? Would you consider him one of your role models? He certainly is one of mine. Yeah, he's a good guy. You're not that fond of him. I really feel like this is... What is your issue with Elon Musk? I don't know, too much marketing. I'm much more down to earth and like humble kind of person. I don't know. And you don't think he's humble? He is, right? Yeah, he is. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, still too much hype around him.
Who else is there? Who else is out there? You know, if you could compare Elon Musk to say 30 other people that did similar stuff to him, then maybe I understand. But you're talking about someone who did Solar City, SpaceX, PayPal.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's actually thinking about things for humanity. You know, other entrepreneurs are thinking, how can I create iPhone 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 and sell them over and over and over again with incremental tiny improvements on every model? Whereas Elon Musk is saying, I'm concerned that the planet, that global warming is going to take place, and I'm concerned about the future generations. So as a solution, I want to send them to Mars.
Yeah,
are there a lot of people thinking about that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, Silicon Valley is full of them. There's another guy called Brian Johnson who sold his company to PayPal, I think.
Is it Braintree?
Braintree, yeah. And he started another company which is very similar to Neuralink, to Elon Musk. So,
yeah,
Silicon Valley is full of people like this. This is actually why I love that. Like, London is a great place for startup, but Silicon Valley just takes it to the next level because you go in. I mean, the other day I was on an Uber in Silicon Valley, and this guy was giving me advice where to find what was it, like semiconductor executives. He had some people on his phone.
And that's the taxi driver, that's the Uber driver.
Yeah, it's the Uber driver. Sometimes you go to a petrol station and you chat to someone who's filling up your pump, and then they also have a startup.
He's like, hey, I can connect you to an investor. Here's my business card.
For sure. You go to every cafe and all you hear about is just like pictures of startups. And
so it is true. Talks. It is true. I've not been Silicon Valley yet, but Peter from Improbable, he mentioned this actually. He said even when I was taking a flight to Silicon Valley.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Or out of it, he was saying that the person to my left in the plane and the person to my right were both founders.
Oh yeah, of course. Like all the time. I'm always making friends in planes. Like any event is just in the same place for that talent, you know.
Now, how can that culture be created, either in universities or in cities?
You mean like Imperial and London?
Yeah,
I think London has that. Maybe it's a bit more risk intolerant, averse, yeah. But it has one of the greatest startup ecosystem, I think, in the world. It's just Silicon Valley funds like crazy ideas. In London, like we didn't get any of our initial investments. Mostly we didn't get them from London. It was all Silicon Valley-based people. Because our idea for building a smartwatch, I mean, people here, they usually fund finance, retail, they fund media. There's now a
very stable, predictable industries.
London's really becoming big on AI these days, and it's thanks to, you know, DeepMind, it's thanks to Magic Pony, it's thanks to loads of other startups that are creating a buzz around London. So, and Improbable actually is one of them. Right? And it's kind of an AI startup if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, even
really,
Peter from Improbable, he got his investment from Andreesen Horowitz.
Yeah.
You know, so the big push he got from over there, Silicon Valley.
So I think it's a good place to also do a business around this. But how do you create ecosystems? I don't know. I've been a president of Imperial Entrepreneurs for a year, and before this, I used to kind of run it in different positions. It's hard. I think it's as much of a job of the university itself as it is of the students to create a society that works. And I
think part of it is failure, accepting failure. They accept failure in the States far more than they do here. I've noticed in Europe in general, specifically in the UK, people hide their failures. You know, I'm not going to discuss about the failed startups I might have been engaged in, but I'll definitely tell you about the ones that succeeded, right? Because failure is looked down upon. We don't want to be associated with somebody who failed. Whereas, you know, a place like Silicon Valley, it's fine. People say it. Oh, I had 2 failed startups and now this one worked. They're proud of that. It shows, you know, it's about culture.
Yeah.
It really is about culture. And investors are a big part of the game. Apparently it's probably quite evident to anybody who's following the scene. There's more investors. There's more money in Silicon Valley than there are entrepreneurs. So what they're saying is the reputation for an investor in Silicon Valley is paramount. They're really worried about the reputation. So they're extra careful when they're dealing with an entrepreneur, because if an entrepreneur says one bad thing about that investor, his reputation goes down the drain.
Oh, I didn't know this, but certainly there's a lot of investment money in there. And I still think you can do startups anywhere today. And, you know, if you're really passionate about an idea that you have or a sector that you can be in Sweden, you can be in Vietnam, and you can still do it. It's just about whether you're focused on giving up your Friday nights. Like, really is, like, if there's one thing I would say, it's about whether you feel your Friday nights are better in just hacking around your products or whether
you prioritize work-life balance. I need 5 days a week and I want to rest for the weekend.
No, it doesn't work. I'm sorry. My team also hates me for that, but like it doesn't work. I mean, Elon Musk says it, right? If you want to succeed, you just have to work really hard.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like you're working hard. It just feels like you're if you create a vision, that's actually a great thing about Elon Musk is he creates visions which is just science fiction. So and that really what drives the team. That what really drives the.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. I don't think I'm perfect at it yet, but I'm getting better.
I think everyone's learning. I'd argue that probably Elon Musk is humble, at least what I've seen of him. Anyone who tells you that I've learned everything there is to learn has got his head high up in the sky. You know, there's always a new piece of information. You gain wisdom on a daily basis. Speaking of wisdom, and based on your current experience, like you went all the way to the PhD level. It's very advanced in the world of academia. A, do you recommend people to go that high up in academia? And B, how useful was it, do you think, in the whole Blocks journey?
PhD itself? Very. You as a founder, especially if you're a founder or CEO or anyone, in a startup, you are often finding yourselves alone with your decisions and you have to just decide without really knowing what the right answer is. And I think in PhD you get that a lot. The only difference between the two is that in PhD you are really alone all the time. And you really have to think for yourself. And in a startup you also have other people that you have to pull through with you. But the great similarities between the two, I think. So
between pursuing a PhD
and doing a startup, yeah.
Interesting.
It's the hard stuff. It's the hard stuff that happens in startups and hard stuff happens in PhD. They're very similar. Maybe the outcomes are a bit different. But, yeah.
Okay, well, Serge Didenko, what is the future of Blocks? Maybe you can tell us now, so we can maybe play this back in 5 years' time and let's see how close you were. Where do you see Blocks going?
As I said, personally, I would love Blocks to be a platform that enables new possibilities, that enables people to build experimental applications for use cases in healthcare, in industrial applications, in oil and gas and manufacturing. I just want Blocks to be a platform that enables people to hack around, because that's what enables other startups to flourish and to get somewhere and become successful. Yeah. So I want us to be an enabler for that. And personally, I very much hope that we're also going to play a big role in the medical world. And we're starting to do that right now. So I'm very excited.
Well, it's something that be demanded for sure. You know, as we advance technologically. Well, Serge, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. I think it's really interesting what's happening with Blocks. I think you're an extremely interesting guy, and I look forward to future episodes with you where we can see the development of Blocks.
Yeah.
All right, take care.
All right.
Thanks.
Cool.